Oh, yep, there's Jan coming in here.
Oh, good.
Joel tried to jump on this morning at 10:30. He forgot
Oh,
to reset his calendar and he's like, no, that was me. And I felt so my heart panicked. I'm like, oh no, how many people are coming in at 10:30? But he
good
said,
morning, Dan.
hi
Good morning.
Jan,
Oh, hi. Oh, I'm sorry I lost you.
what happened? We see you.
Yes, we see you.
We see you in all my glory, huh? Wait a minute, let me fix my hair. Okay.
Looks great.
Thanks. I'll stay then. How
Always
are you, ladies? I didn't mean to interrupt your conversation.
No, you're good.
good. We're good. We were just getting everything logged on and ready and catching up a little bit.
Okay. Well, Jeannie is supposed to come over, Sister Jeannie, Sarah. I don't know if you've met her yet, but at 1:15 or around that, between 1:15 and 1:30. Anyway, we're going to be working on making oh Lord, little gifts to go with our donated sets that Sarah, I didn't know if I even shared that with you. We're donating time for a workshop at the Momentum Center.
I saw that.
And Sarah, these are for the underserved of the community.
Uh-huh.
In so many ways. I mean, you stop
Yeah.
and think about it, and it's just very inclusive. So it's got everybody.
Oh,
And
nice.
I went and saw Barbara, I don't know, a couple months ago, and I told her about our Toys for Tots and that we really wanted to do something for them for Christmas, for December. And anyway, long story short, we're doing it Wednesday. So Jeannie's going to come over and help me stuff bags and
Oh,
make
fun.
make party favors and everything for the kids. So.
Good.
Oh,
So if I have to leave a little early, I want to, up front give my apologies, and I'm just going to quietly leave and not interrupt your program. So if you don't see me, that's where I went.
Got it. You didn't just
Okay.
quit.
Yeah, I'm out of here.
Brooke said she's
Good.
on Zoom. She may be on the wrong link. Just a second. I'm trying to help Brooke here.
Okay.
She said she's trying to get on. Let me try to text her or message her the link real quick.
Yeah.
Let me grab that. Sorry, guys. Well, Jan, why don't you let Sarah know who you are and chit chat a minute?
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be
We've
more than
chatted
fine.
before, I think. Yeah, but tell me a little bit about what you do.
Okay. My sister and I, we don't work for Color Street, but we sell Color Street products.
Okay.
And although they have, oh boy, they have expanded to so many makeup and all this kind of stuff. They started out with the nails, and that's mainly what we work with, is the nails, because that's what we started with and found fun. And we found it to be a way to kind of support our mission of being able to do things like the Momentum Center donation and Toys for Tots and things like that. So I always tell, with every set that's bought, really, you're helping us with our ministry of reaching out to those that, like Christmas, those that wouldn't have a gift, or even one little thing. Not that we're the end all, but even one little something that their child could open or have under the tree wrapped. So that's the end game to our selling Color Street. Although we do love the product, because I've got my little nails on here.
So is Color Street polish, or is it like the stickers that you put on?
Well, I made the big faux pas of calling it stickers when I first came on, because to me that's what it is versus the traditional wet nail polish.
Yeah.
And they corrected me rather quickly, because it's 100% nail polish, but it's in a sticker form.
Oh.
So you are putting it on like a sticker. Once
Uh-huh.
you got the steps down, it's really quite fast and easy.
Yeah.
But yes, thank you for asking, Sarah. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. Yeah, that's super fun. I never do anything with my nails. Hey, Brooke, because I just am not, like, especially with my left hand, I'm not very coordinated. And I played piano for, I don't know, well, I still can play the piano, but I don't. I played for like 30 years. And so I just never had nails growing up. They were always just very short for playing piano. So I've just
Yeah.
never done much with them. but maybe it's
Yeah.
time. Maybe it's time.
We might have to hook up because they're so much fun, you get addicted. Oh, so now I'm
Uh-oh.
talking about addiction now. So, oh, wait. But wait, we've got a group for that too.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Nail addiction.
Yeah. Nail addiction.
That's awesome.
Well, welcome, Brooke.
Thanks. Hi, I was on the link on the calendar and it just
Yeah,
kept saying the meeting was waiting to start. So I don't know
because we
if
both got
any
in from the calendar too. So I don't know
did.
why it does that. Which
Okay,
one, the
I,
Google Calendar or the Google Doc one?
the Google Calendar, the one I
Yeah,
have synced.
yeah.
It could have been me though, because I was just clearing cookies and stuff, so it could have been me. But anyway, I'm here now, so hi.
yay. We're glad. Yeah. I came in on the link from the Facebook group, like your post.
Okay. And I came in from the link on the calendar.
Hmm. Who
It was
knows?
probably just
Technology.
me.
I think
Don't worry.
well, it has to be, I feel like we've got to refresh our calendars or something because Joel had his didn't reset to 12:30, his said 10:30. And so he
Oh.
jumped on at 10:30 and then he's like, "Oh, I didn't refresh my calendar. I'm sorry." So like and so I wonder if something like that's happening
Mm,
that, when I go in and set the links, I don't maybe I don't know. I'll have to play with that though, because I don't like that happening. So, but anyway,
yeah.
well, I'll figure that out on my end.
Okay.
But you guys, we got to get started. I know because Sarah's got an hour with us, and I'm sure she's got a lot in that hour. So
I usually do.
you
You
usually
know
do.
me, I could talk. I could talk.
So, yeah, and for those watching, Sarah Jacobson is a coach. She is who gave you guys your 90 days and 90 minutes when you first came into the group to set your first 3 months of 52 connections off on the right track. So I hope that you're using those. You all should have those tools. And if you need them again or the videos, I have the links in the videos for them. But Sarah actually I've worked with Sarah for like since February now, and she has really helped me with the ways that she coaches and the ways that she has you set on your 90 days or your first 90 days. And this workshop is going to be for a year. Like she has a way of helping you focus and strategize and implement what you need to do to stay on track. And it's really worked for me. So I know you guys are going to get a lot of benefit out of this today. So I'm excited that Sarah's here, and I'll let you take it from here, Sarah.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sarah. And it's been so much fun working with you this last year and seeing how 52 Connections has just grown and has brought in new people. And so that's just been fun to watch. So, yes, my name is Sarah. I am a Christian business coach, and I love to help people get that confidence and clarity that you just have to have as a business owner to do what you do day in and day out. Because without that clarity, you're just spinning your wheels, you're creating an expensive hobby and not necessarily a business. And without the confidence, we can't actually attract the right people to us and get them to sign on or buy our product or become our client. And so I love to help with that because we all have things we want to do, and we can't do that if our business isn't actually running well. And so if you were not with me on my original 90 days in 90 minutes call, I've dropped the link both in Facebook and here in the chat here for the video that you can check out, and also the workbook that you can use so that if you want to go back and watch that, you can. And I invite you to do that. And I want to start today with a proverb from my faith tradition. And I think that this is just a great lesson that we can all use as we're going into planning this new year. And it is the proverb that says, careful planning puts you ahead in the long run. Hurry and scurry puts you further behind. And I think in our society in America, it is so easy to become addicted to that hurry and scurry mentality. There's a great little pamphlet called The Tyranny of the Urgent, and so many of us follow that. We just get so wrapped up in what's right in front of our face, that tyranny of the urgent, what seems so urgent right in front of us, that we forget we actually had a plan for our business. We actually have some goals that we want to meet. And so we put those by the wayside for what seems like the fire right in front of us. And so we do have options in our business about how we choose to run it. We can run it on all of 2024 on hurry and scurry, and we would be back here on this same Zoom in December, exhausted, not meeting our goals, feeling discouraged, because we can't keep that up, that hurry and scurry, and we have options. And we want to step carefully into 2024 with a solid plan so that next year we could come back together in December and say, oh my gosh, look at all the things I've been able to do. Look at the energy that I have because I'm not just running around and hurrying and scurrying. I've actually had a plan that I've followed. But before we can go into what plan is actually going to work for you in 2024, I personally believe, hey, Joel, welcome. I personally believe we have to name what we've done in the past that hasn't worked, because what we don't name is going to rule and reign over us in 2024. And we want to leave that behind. And so I'm going to tell you some things, some guesses that I have of what we've probably tried in the past. And then I'm going to give you a chance to do a little confession. We can call it Confession Monday, of the things that we've done when we've tried to plan in the past and it just hasn't worked. And so I'm guessing some of the things that you've tried in the past that haven't worked is you've just sat down and you've just gotten a piece of paper and you've said, I'm going to write down all my goals. And you just wrote them all down. You just did a brain dump and it felt good, but it didn't work because now you've just got a list. You have no idea what you're going to do with them and it hasn't worked. Maybe you've just done what I do a lot of times because I'm an overthinker, is you've overthought it and you've made it more complicated. So you're like, I need to buy a really expensive planner and I need to follow all these steps. And because this problem feels so complicated, it must have to have a complicated solution. That's what we tell ourselves. The bigger the problem is, we think the bigger the solution it needs to be. So we overthink it. Hopefully I'm not alone in that. Or we're creatives. And so we go into Canva or some other program and we create this beautiful vision board and we put pictures on it and we put all these things on it. And we're like, this is going to be the answer to all my problems in 2024 is I need a vision board. All these people on Instagram, they've got these beautiful vision boards. And so that must be what I've been missing. The other thing that we see a lot of people doing, it's very popular to do, is to pick your word of the year, which I think is great. I think it's awesome to have a word of the year, but it doesn't work for actually getting stuff done. It's very motivational. It's very inspirational. It looks beautiful on Instagram in a story or on a reel with a pretty beach in the background. And this is my word of the year. But trying that and doing that alone isn't going to get you where you want to go in your business with a plan for you to follow. Another thing that you may have tried, which is kind of similar to the first couple on this list, is you've just written down everything that you were thinking or you were hoping that you can accomplish in the next year. And all of those things can be good. They can be a good start, but they aren't going to work. And they probably haven't worked for you in the past to create an actual plan to follow in your business. Or the other thing that you may have done is you may have just avoided doing it altogether. And you've said it's so overcomplicated. I make it so hard. I don't want to do a vision board. I'm not creative. And so I'm just not going to make any goals because then I can't fail. Because if I don't make a goal, then I'm not going to fail at anything because I haven't listed anything down on my piece of paper. And so my question for you is, since there's just a small number of us, is anyone willing to kind of confess, I've done one of these things before and it just hasn't worked? Or maybe you've done something else. You've tried something else on that's not on the list that has gotten you started with goal planning, but it just hasn't sustained you throughout the whole year for 12 months. I know I confessed I tend to overthink it and overcomplicate it and make it harder than it needs to be. Does anybody else have a confession on this Confession Monday? Oh, here we go. Okay. All of the above. Thank you, Brooke. Yes, we've all been there. I'm the overthinker. Yes, Joel, thank you for that confirmation. And Sarah, all but not doing anything. Yes. And that is part of the problem, is chronically working on it, right? Like we always think we've got to be working on it. And so then we're just working on making a list instead of actually doing the things that are on the list. And I've been there too. And then we're just wasting time. We feel productive because we're doing something, but we're not actually making progress on the list that we've made. And as business owners, that's not really stewarding our time well. It's not serving our clients because we're not actually doing the work. And it's not serving us because we feel like at the end of the day, we have nothing to show for the work that we've done. And that gets really, really discouraging. And it starts to create a cycle of almost self-sabotage. Well, I didn't do it, so I can't do it, so then I won't do it. And then we just spiral into that. And by the 1st of February, maybe the 1st of March, if you're lucky, we've thrown all those goals away to begin with. And then they're not helpful at all. And then we feel guilty because we spent so much time on it, but now we're not doing it. And so as a result of that, we start to overcompensate for it. And we try and do a bunch of things to overcompensate for it. But I want to tell you why those things that I just mentioned don't work, because we want to understand why they don't work so we don't keep defaulting back to them. One of them is that if you're doing all of these kinds of things, making a list, brain dumping, creating a vision board or whatever, none of those strategies for making a plan for the new year take into account you and who you are and what your personality is and how you work. I love that Brooke just said you saw your old vision board from 2017. You actually did do most of it, but working on it took longer than a year, which is okay. And sometimes that does happen, but at least you were moving in the right direction. But, maybe a vision board works for you and it really is inspirational for you because it matches your personality and your preferences. But maybe a vision board or brain dumping or whatever, that's not who you are. That's not how your brain works. And so there's a mismatch there in the type of planning you're doing and who you are day to day, month after month, week after week. And so it doesn't work. There's not an alignment there. To me, none of those things that we're talking about here of how to plan for the new year involves any reflection on the last year. And I also believe firmly that you can't get to where you want to go if you haven't looked to see where you've been in the past. What does the data tell us? Not that it's subjective and it's emotional, but that what is the objective information about the past 6 to 12 months tell me about where I'm likely to go in the future, and making realistic plans based on what the past is telling me. The past doesn't dictate the future, but it does inform it, and we can't ignore that. The other problem with, just doing those things of brain dumping and creating lists and creating vision boards is there's no consideration in that process of my current reality. We have to consider when we're making goals for the new year, what's already on my plate right now and what's already dictated to me. So the example that I use a lot is my sister has my 2 nieces. One is graduating from college in May and one is graduating from high school. That's a lot on my sister's plate as we go into this spring. Her current reality for the spring of 2024 is already dictated to her a little bit with a lot of plans and parties and things that have to happen. And it's not just things in events on the calendar, it's energy that's going to require her this spring to be pulled away from some of the things she might want to do. And so as we're looking to the future, we really have to account for what's our capacity right now. What are we coming out of? What have we reflected on? And what's already dictated to us as parents, as spouses, maybe caretakers for our own parents, all the things that we have going on. And none of these strategies for planning for the new year that are so haphazard take into account of what my current reality is and my current capacity. The other thing that I see most often when it comes to goal planning, and it just breaks my heart because there are beautiful planners out there and, things you can download to help you set goals, but none of them take into account creating a way to actually execute those goals. Because just having goals on a piece of paper is like having a recipe for a cake, but no way to actually make the cake. And we want to make the cake this year in our business. We don't want to just have the recipe. The recipe is nice. Everyone can have a recipe, but we want to actually make the cake. And so we need to have a way to actually put that plan into motion. And for me, as a Christian and as a believer, why those things don't work is that I forgot to invite God into the process. So if that speaks to you, that might be something that you want to consider as you're planning in this new year, is I actually need to ask God what his plan is for me in my life and my business. And that can be a big mistake for us as believers to leave him out of it. So now it's time again for a little bit of confession. And if you want to take your mic off, you can. If you just want to drop it in the chat, that's fine. But what is one thing that you think the way you've planned in the past has impacted you for planning for the future? Is it that the way you've done it doesn't account for your personality? Is it that you forgot to reflect? You're not very good at it. I am not very good at looking to the past. I always like to be looking to the future. And so that can be hard for me. Maybe you've not taken into consideration your current reality. I think a lot of people think that they're capable of doing a lot more than their energy and their calendar actually say they can do. Or maybe you just haven't had a way to plan to actually execute it. And so, yeah, what would you say? You can either take off your microphone or just put it in the chat of what would you say has impacted you the most in your planning?
One thing that I have learned the hard way over and over is that whenever I'm working on something that felt God inspired or I was called to it, and then I start to leave God out of it and it starts not working, then I remember, oh yeah, I started making it about me or building my
Mhm,
kingdom and not
mhm,
his, and then
mhm,
it stopped working.
mhm,
And I do this over and over, you'd think I'd learn, but
mhm. I know.
um,
I know.
whenever I keep the focus on him and the why with his purposes, then things continue to work well. So
Mhm.
I've
Yeah.
had to learn that the hard way so many
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. And Jan said
Mhm.
she's overcommitting because I want to do everything. Hey, I hear you. I have been there and I've thought, "Oh, I am totally superwoman. This is going to be a year to do it all." And then it's like it just crashes and burns so quickly. And then I don't end up doing anything because I'm so tired and worn out and or I'm resentful because I've got all this stuff on my calendar that's taking up space and I've forgotten what my actual priorities are. So I'm glad that I'm not the only one that's experienced
Mhm.
some of those things. Sometimes when I write these down on a presentation, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm the only one who's ever done it, but I don't think my experience is exclusive to me.
No, I think any of us who are driven, ambitious people, we all get stuck in this.
Yeah,
So it's really
yeah,
important to talk about what to do instead. So I'm
yeah,
glad you're
yeah,
talking
for
about it
sure. Yeah,
today.
good. Okay. So I'm going to quickly go over in the next couple of slides what I see happening to people when they do these things, when they overcommit or they forget to ask God into their business or they aren't taking into consideration their own current limitations or their own personality. You know, I don't need a really fancy planner, but I want one because they look so pretty and when I see people using them, I'm like, "Oh, I want a fancy planner." But that doesn't actually take into account to me, so then I'm denying who I am. And what starts to happen is we because we're trying to overcompensate, we fall into these deadly 10 and we start to become desperate in our business because we want to be like everybody else. You know, I'm addicted to planners, yes, and they're never perfect. So we become desperate of like, oh, I want to make all these good decisions and I want to have this beautiful planner. So then start to become impulsive in our decisions. We have a sense of urgency, which is good, but it becomes coupled with anxiety, which is never good in our business. We start to take unnecessary risks because we aren't planning well and we just are desperate for something. We brain dumped all these goals, but none of them are coming to fruition. So we start to get desperate. We start to plan and make plans with our blind spots. We have blinders on and we don't see the problems that are around us. And so we don't have understanding of our current situation and we don't make good decisions. And I think the other thing that happens with when we have blind spots is we overlook possibilities and opportunities that are there, but we can't see them because we've got these blinders on. We also tend to be perfectionistic. We grasp onto things and we're like, then I have to do it perfectly. If I can't do everything then what I do, I have to do really perfectly. And that can keep our growth stunted and stagnant. The other thing we can do, which we all kind of confessed, this isn't necessarily our big problem, but it can start to be if we've brain dumped all these goals and we've got this huge list of things we want to do, is then we just start avoiding it because we know we can't do it all. So then I'm not going to do any of it. So we avoid it. Another problem that we have is we get stuck in analysis paralysis. If we just have a plan or a vision board and we're looking at it, then we're analyzing what is the most important thing. I don't know what it is. And so then I analyze, well, should I do this? Well, I should do this. This one should be the most important. And then we just get stuck in this cycle of overcompensating, overthinking, becoming kind of obsessed with what we're doing and not really having any productive thinking around it. I know for me as a mom, I get decision fatigue because I have so many decisions to make. And when we just create a plan, um, and then we create a plan, but we don't have a way to follow through on it, we get fatigued by all the decisions we have to make around it. Which one's most important? What am I going to work on today? What do I say no to? This thing popped up. And so we get fatigued by those decisions. And we make a lot of decisions, but we're not using our brain to actually engage them or partner with God if that's on our list. And then we start to feel scattered. We just go from one thing to the next. I call it poking around in our business, and we're just poking instead of working from a plan. And so we don't have a set of strategic goals to work on that ground us and bring us back when we get scattered, and our kids are coming in and they need us, and then somebody gets sick, and then my mom calls and she needs something. And so when we don't have a good plan to follow that's in action, we get really scattered, and then we waste time, and then we overcompensate and we become perfectionists. I mean, it's just a cycle of all of these behaviors that we're doing. A couple more that we have is to become hasty. We just get like desperate. We see our goals and it's like, oh my gosh, it's November and I haven't done anything. So then we just become like hasty and trying to do them all instead of doing them well. Another one is that we become codependent in our work, and we see our work as our identity, and that if I'm not succeeding in my work, then I'm not succeeding in life. And again, that creates this cycle of just devastation and lies about who we are and the importance of our work. We make work way more important than it really should or could be. And in the end, for me, what I've seen happen is then I just start self-sabotaging. Our goals become so lofty and unrealistic, or so unmanageable and inactionable, we don't have a way to carry them out, that we stay in our comfort zone and we aren't able to take good risks. We aren't able to make good decisions. We're tired by all the decisions that we have to make. We've been avoiding things. And so then I just stay in a cycle of self-sabotage. Well, yep, then I can't do any of it. And so I am going to fail. And we go into that cycle. And so who knew that creating a plan and having goals for our business could be kind of a challenge, and that could lead us to all of these kinds of behaviors and ways of kind of acting out in our business if we don't have a way to make a really good plan for the new year. And so again, I know we've already been vulnerable, and I thank you for sharing. What do you think you've done and how you've responded in the past when you haven't had a good plan to follow? Which one or more of these is kind of your go-to tendency? For me, it's avoiding and being scattered. Then when I come back to it, and then, kind of getting in that self-sabotage of, well, none of it's worked, so I may as well just not try. What has kind of been your response in the past?
I feel like more recently for me, I've been fatigued by decisions because I've had so many different things and get so excited. And then, but I also don't think that I take into consideration, like you said, the pre-planning of like what my capacity already has there. And so I've really been focusing on that to avoid that fatigue by decisions, because that does roll into self-sabotage. Like, oh, I did it again, or I didn't do well with this. I should just not. And maybe this isn't for me. And maybe God's not calling me to this, or like all these different thoughts, come into your head
Yeah.
from that. But I know where it comes from. It's just like the not having the plan, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. Brooke said she feels scattered. Yep, I'm totally there. I think this time of year lends itself to that. And so then are we really setting ourselves up for success to say, I need to create a plan right now? Well, if you're feeling the most scattered and the most tired and the most pulled in all of these different directions in December, literally 1 week before Christmas, is this the best time for you to be making a plan? I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's like, okay, in the chaos, that's when I need to do it. And maybe it is permission to say, I'm going to wait until January 1st or 2nd when everybody's gone home, the Christmas tree is put away. I've had a chance to breathe. The kids get back into school. I'm super excited to have my kids home tomorrow afternoon for a couple of weeks, but then I'm also super glad, like, go back to school. So, maybe that's the time to be doing it.
That's
Um,
exactly why I wanted you to do this too, because that is where so many of us, I think, are living right now. And that is,
yeah,
I think, a natural space for business owners. Like, so much is happening. There's excitement all around us. It's a joyous time of year. And we're like, oh,
yeah,
we've managed it up to this far throughout the year. Like, we've got this. But
yeah,
then it starts to pile on and pile on and pile on. So this is so
yeah,
great because,
yeah.
yeah, having
Mhm.
this going into the new year is like, whoo.
Right. Take a deep breath. Yeah. Either if now is a good time, then you've made it and okay, I've got a plan going into January, I can release it. Or if January is the time to make your plan, then you release it from your mind and you say, I already have a date on the calendar in January. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to should on myself that I should be doing this right now. I've already got time set aside in the future for it. And that's a great, great place to be. So yeah, Joel said avoiding and self-sabotaging 100%. I'm there. Yep. Christmas parties can stop now. Yes. I was actually really sad because my husband got invited to a Christmas party and it was the one night they actually planned it in January. We already had plans and I was like, oh shoot, the one that I wanted to go to. But Jan says analysis paralysis by overthinking everything by trying to consider any and all possibilities. Yep, for sure. And so how do we start to tame some of this madness and this craziness so that we can let go of some of these things, so that we're not going out and being desperate and like thinking that an expensive planner is going to solve all of my problems. We stop digging our heels in to do all of the things even more. We stop overcompensating, we stop over planning, because we've all said today to some extent that we enter a fail spiral. We start in these behaviors, we do these things over and over and over again, which just gets us into that fail spiral. And so I want to start to give you some steps that you can actually take that are going to help you as you move into the new year. And I'm not going to cover them all in detail here because you can go back and watch my plan 90 days and 90 minutes. And I do have an invitation for you at the end where we can actually sit down and create this together. But here's the framework to follow. And I believe in giving you the tools, but then you have to make the tools work for you. Because one of the problems that I see is people go out there and they sell, you have to do it my way. Here's the plan. Here's step 1, here's step 2, step 3. And then it doesn't take into account who you are, your business, where you are. And so I'm going to give you some of these steps and then you have to make it work for you. You have to own it and realize your own personality and limitations in the way that you like to do things. And you also have to be willing to recognize, where are some of my weaknesses that I actually do need to dig into this a little bit more, because I'm not good at it. I've already said I'm not very good at the reflection piece. That's a piece that I have to work really, really hard at. And I can't ignore it and I can't skip over it. And sometimes I need to ask for help from someone else who really is good at the reflection piece to sit with me and just have a conversation. And so for me, I'm all about my business is doing the right work, because we can do a lot of work and it can be the wrong work. I want to help you do the right work in 2024. So for me, as a believer, I pause and pray. And even if you aren't and praying isn't your thing, at least pausing and taking that deep breath, because I think a lot of times we rush into something and it's like, okay, it's 9 o'clock and now I got to start and I got to do the thing and I only have 1 hour. And it's like, sometimes we just need to take this deep breath and release all of the stuff that's around us, actually turn off our phone, close out our email, and just really take the time to focus on this work. And so that's my first invitation for you. And then I want to invite you to do 3 steps before you ever write any goal down on your piece of paper. And one is to start by reflecting. Where have I been in the last year? And if a year is too long, excuse me, if you're going, I don't even remember January of 2023, then just do the last 3 to 6 months and that is fine, because that's what you've lived most recently. Give yourself permission of what's the last 3 to 6 months, where have I been since this summer? What am I really proud of from the last couple of months? What has been really hard and challenging for me? What has been some of my biggest wins in my business, and what have been some of the toughest lessons to learn? And we just sit and we reflect on that. Did I set goals in the last 3 to 6 months, and did I hit them? What worked for me in terms of setting goals the last few months? And maybe the realization is I didn't set goals, it didn't work, and I felt crummy the whole time because I was just questioning everything that I was doing. Then I really believe in taking the next step, which is grounding yourself in the reality of where I am right now. And this might be something you have to ask for help with. You might have to ask a spouse or a friend and say, what would you say how I'm doing right now? What is it that I'm talking a lot about, recently? Is it about how tired I am? Is it about how stressed I've been? Is it about how excited I am about my business? What have I been talking and thinking about? Where am I right now? Am I coming out of a season that's just been exhausting? For me, I've had to accept the reality that our family has been through a lot in 2023. God has been very faithful to our family and provided in a mighty way. And I'm very tired. I'm not just tired like in a way of I need to take a couple of naps. I'm tired in a way that this season has been really, really hard. And going into 2024, I don't know that the start of the year is going to be this like, woohoo, I'm like going all in running a marathon. It's more like, hey, I'm going to start taking some short walks, and that's okay. For you, you might be like, all right, 2023 was awesome and I'm ready to run the marathon in the first quarter and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to hit it hard. Great. That's awesome. If that is where you have been and where you are right now, that's great. This isn't about comparing ourselves to anyone else besides where we are right now and where we want to go. Because comparison is the thief of joy. We know all of that. We're not comparing. We can consult what other people are doing who are in the same season as we are, but we aren't comparing ourselves to their progress. Then we start to examine, where do I want to go in the future? Ultimately, where do I want to go in my business in 2024? What are the big things that I want to do? Jan, I'm going to use you as an example. She does these ministry opportunities and she's about to do this awesome thing for underserved people in her community. Well, maybe this year she's able to do 50 bags for that. And she's like, you know what? Next year, I know there's a need and I want to hit 100 bags and I want to give away 100 bags of this stuff to these underprivileged people. Then I can start to see, what is it going to take for me to get to where I want to go at the end of the year? If this is a big goal of where I want to double what I'm doing right now, then I can start to backtrack to the goals that are going to be the most important to me to hit that in the future. So where do I want to go in the future? And you can dream big. Dream big on this, because we have time in the next step to pull it back in and make it realistic. But we can go to where we want to go of like, can I promise that Jan's going to be able to double her bags of giving them away? No, I can't. But can she shoot for that target? Absolutely. Maybe she gets to 75 instead of 100. That's still a lot more than she would have done if she had never put that goal on her paper to begin with. So start to examine, where do I want to go in the future based on where I've been in the past and where I am right now and what my current reality is. All of that work is often what we skip and we jump straight into, well, I'm just going to set my goals. And that's why we fall back on all of these behaviors that are such a problem, because we didn't do any of that internal questioning and examining before we set our goals. We just jumped straight in, and that's part of the problem. And so now this part is probably the part that is somewhat familiar to you, because this is what a lot of people do. They just don't do the pre-work and they don't do the post-work that I'm going to give you here in just a minute. And so I always encourage people to break this down into 90 days, because if you're going to set goals for the whole year, I don't know what December of 2024 is going to look like. I had no idea what December of 2023 was going to look like a year ago. My husband has a new job. We have, all these new changes. I could not have predicted that a year ago. So my encouragement to you is, you can dream big about 2024 and the whole year, but then when you go to set goals, do it about 90 days at a time. It doesn't mean you go to your calendar and you have to count it out exactly. Just say January, February, March. By the end of March of 2024, where do I want to be in my business? What is the biggest, most important thing that I really need to work on right now? Now, this could be anything from lead generation to building a sales team, to working on a messaging, to creating a website, to building a team of people that you need to have for your business, to I need to get my health in order. I've been sick most of 2023, and my big goal is I need to get out there and I need to be exercising and eating right. And that's going to help me in my business the most, is being healthy myself, getting better sleep, drinking more water, doing all the things. What is that one WIG, the wildly important goal, that's going to set you up for the biggest success for the next 90 days? 90 days is a time frame that our brain can really get our head around. And so what is that wildly important goal? Maybe it's about making more connections and being more active in the 52 Connections network. Maybe it's bringing more people into that network so that you've got more people to network with. What is that biggest goal? And then here is the piece that a lot of people skip over, is I'm going to create some goals underneath that one wildly important goal that support it. What are those 3 to 5 goals? Not more than that, because you can't remember them. It's too hard to figure them all out. But what are those 3 to 5 goals? They need to be clear and concise. They have to have deadlines to them. And my encouragement to you is that they also have celebrations with them. I'm reading a book right now about adults with ADHD, and actually Jeanette Stein recommended it to me, because a lot of us as entrepreneurs, we may not have ADHD diagnosed. That's a real a condition that people have, but a lot of us have a lot of the mindset around ADHD because we are creatives. We like to do this and this and this and this. And we need those celebrations to tell our brain that the work that we are doing is good and that we want to keep doing that work. And so, I like celebrations, like rewarding myself with a pedicure. I was just with another lady on a retreat that I led a couple weekends ago, and she's a real creative. She is a photographer, an amazing artistic photographer. And she said, that doesn't work for me. But having a visual poster on the wall that reminds me of all of the nice things that people are saying about my work, that's a celebration for me. So you have to figure out what works for you, and you have to try some things to see if they're motivating. For some people, literally texting someone else every time they get some progress on that goal is that dopamine hit, and it reminds them, I want to keep doing it. In this book that I'm reading about adult ADHD and staying focused, the author is a gentleman, and he talked about how every time he did the dishes, which was impossible for him, he texted another friend who doing dishes was also impossible. And they would just be like, I did the dishes today. And the other guy would be like, that's awesome. I did mine too. And it was just that like little bit of feedback loop that they needed to keep going. And like, oh, doing the dishes is actually a good thing. And so don't underestimate the importance of doing some of those little celebrations to keep you going in these goals day after day, week after week, month after month for that 90 days. What these 3 to 5 goals do is they help you break down what you're doing in your business into smaller steps. So for example, the example that I always use is creating a sales page. Nobody here is like, sales pages are awesome and all I want to do is create sales pages. They're hard, they're tedious, it involves a lot of work. And so when we put a goal on our list of something like create a sales page, our brain goes, yeah, I'm not doing that. Okay. So we have to trick our brain. And the way we do that is we break that goal down into 3 to 5 action steps underneath it. What is step 1? Step 1 is probably creating the copy. Step 2 is maybe creating all the graphics that are going to go on it. Step 3 is, defining the offer that I'm going to sell on that sales page and all of the details that go around it. Then step 4 is to actually get into whatever system you use, Thrivecart, Kartra, whatever, and create the sales page. Now we've got specific steps to follow with deadlines. The first step I'm going to do by January 5th. The second step I'm going to do by January 15th. The third step and we're creating those deadlines, and we're creating celebrations for, maybe it's not each step of the way, but maybe you're communicating with someone else of like, hey, I got step 1 done. Where are you on your steps? So that you can have that little bit of accountability. But we're breaking those down so that we don't just put on our daily list of things to do, create sales page, because we're never going to do it. But when we say, okay, create the copy for the sales page, I can actually do that today. And I can actually do that in a couple of hours. And then we're making real progress on those goals. And so we want to be sure that we're setting the foundation up for our plan for 2024 by doing these first few things, doing the pre-work. Then we're actually creating the goals and the plan. But this is where we miss out. We've created this beautiful list of things. And we're like, yes, this is it. This is the year in 2024 that I'm going to do this. But there's more to it than just that. It's not complicated. It's just that there's more to that, because like I said at the beginning, if you just do the steps I've talked about, you've got the recipe for the cake, but you haven't actually made the way to execute making the cake. And as Sarah put in the chat earlier, we want to be making the cake this year. We want to actually bake it and enjoy it. We want to skip out on doing all the work that doesn't actually work, that we've tried in the past. And we want to skip out on feeling all the things that we felt in the past. And so here are the 4 tools that I'm going to teach you very easily. They're not complicated. And to me, they're in order of importance. Of if you're going to start somewhere, then I would start with number 1. And number 1 is I'm doing a weekly check-in, a CEO check-in, whatever you want to call it, every week on my progress and my goals, because otherwise they become this beautiful list that collect dust on a shelf. And so we need to be doing a weekly check-in with those goals. Where am I? And here's the most important question that you can ask yourself. Did I do what I said I was going to do? There's only 2 answers to that question. Yes or no. There's no justifying. There's no, well, maybe I kind of did. Either I did or I didn't. It's very objective. It's non-emotional. I either did it or I didn't. And if I did, great, awesome, pat on the back. I do my celebration, and then I repeat what I did last week so that I can do it again. If the answer is no, I didn't do what I said I was going to do, we don't allow ourselves shame. We don't do that negative self-talk. We say there's grace for that. Why? Why is my answer no? Well, maybe last week your kid got sick and now all of a sudden they were home from school for the week. Okay, well, there's a really good reason why you didn't do work in your business. Or if the answer is no, I didn't do it because I just really didn't want to and I didn't really have a good plan. Okay, now you know what you need to do to change for this week. Instead of waiting 3 months or 4 months or even a few weeks at a time to make these micro adjustments, we're making them every week because we're doing a weekly check-in and we're being the CEO of our business and we're acting like one and asking ourselves, did I do what I said I was going to do? Yes or no? And I'm going to make my decisions for this week based off of that answer. A weekly check-in can be as, formal and long as you want it to be. I have a little form that I use. It can be as simple as I'm going to take 5 minutes. I'm going to look at my goals. How did I do? And then the next step is I'm going to start quick scheduling my week for the next week. Some of you, this may be dictated to you because you have a secretary and you have appointments and all that kind of stuff. But taking a few moments to quick schedule for your week. Again, it doesn't have to be an expensive planner. I use a sheet that I just print out. It has all 7 days of the week on it. And I use pencil because pen to me feels very permanent and quick scheduling. We want to be able to erase it and move stuff around if we need to. But I'm starting to list out on a piece of paper where I'm spending my time, what appointments I have. Monday morning at 12:30, I'm doing a call for Sarah Barco. Here we are. On Tuesday, I've got these appointments. On Wednesday, I have this. It can be things like I got to take my kid to the dentist or whatever, because it's taking up time in your week and energy in your week, and you want to account for that. And then I'm starting to quick schedule on my calendar when I'm going to do these goals that I said I was going to do. If I have a deadline of writing copy for my sales page by January 5th, and today is January 1st, I need to quick schedule on my calendar when that's going to happen, because it's not going to happen by accident. We're not going to meet these goals and these deadlines by avoiding them or being desperate about them or overanalyzing them. The other thing that we're doing in a weekly check-in and a quick schedule is we're making decisions all at once at the beginning of the week to eliminate decision fatigue the rest of the week. Because if I wait till Friday morning and I go, what do I feel like working on today? It's not going to be copy for my sales page because I'm tired and I want to close out my week. And so I'm putting when I'm going to work on these things from each of my goals on my schedule at the beginning of the week so that I'm not making those decisions every day, because I'm too tired to make decisions every day. I make them all at once. And I separate the decision making from the working. And that's another important productivity tip is we don't want to combine having to do creative things and the work. That's why we're getting tired, is we're trying to do both at the same time. And we want to make the decisions at the beginning of the week during our weekly check-in and our quick schedule. So then when we go to do the work, we're just doing it and not making all of those decisions. We're separating the two actions. If I had one more thing that I was going to encourage you to do, yes, I color code my work, family, and creative. That can be very visual. If that works for you and that's your personality to have it color coded, I love highlighters. I love pens. I love all the color pens. I love that. But if that's not you, then like release it. That's not me. I don't need color coding. That's fine too. It's finding what works for you and what's actually helpful and not dreading. You want to be able to go into your weekly check-in and say, yes, I love doing this. I love color coding. It's motivational to me. Or the way that I do my weekly check-in, it's just very easy and quick and simple, and that's motivating to me. Make it your own. A check-in and check-out routine. I'm a former teacher. I used to teach 3rd grade and 6th grade. My husband was a teacher. He just retired. He taught high school. And so I love teaching techniques. There are so many teaching techniques that are really, really good for us as adults and business owners. And one of them is having a way to transition into and out of your work. Because otherwise, especially as entrepreneurs, if you're building your own business, you're thinking about your business all the time, 24/7. And then why are we building a business at all that we can have on our own? Because now we're just doing our work 24/7 instead of 9 to 5. And so having a check-in and a check-out routine helps us to move into our work and out of our work. And the way I do my check-in routine is I just have a list of 5 to 10 things that are very simple to do at the beginning of the day. Again, I don't have to think about what I'm going to do. I just follow the list, check social media, check my email and respond to email, just double check that there's no small emergencies that I need to take care of. I double check my list of what I need to do. I use Asana for that. And I'm starting my day by easing into it and checking off some of those tasks that can be very, very distracting to us. Because if we don't do social media and some of that stuff at the beginning of the day, then we're allowing it to creep in all day long. And then we're not actually getting into the deep work of meeting these goals that we have. And the same thing is true for checkout. How can I shut things down at the end of the day to tell my brain I have done plenty for today? I've gotten the things crossed off of my work and I'm going to leave the rest here. For some of us, that might mean we've got to start shutting our computer down at the end of every night and literally just saying, I am done. I have done plenty for today. Part of my checkout routine is making that list and updating that list for the next day. So again, I'm making the decisions separate from doing them the next day. I already know for the next day what I'm going to do before I sit down at my computer. So having those quick check-in and checkout routines, they can take you 10 minutes. They could be your first hour of the day, however you want to set that up. But do those small tasks that tend to distract you throughout the day and that are no-brainers. You don't have to think about it. Okay. And then the last thing is, and this is really once you've gotten into doing your weekly check-in every week, doing your quick schedule, however that looks for you, your check-in and checkout routine, is then every 90 days, you're revisiting these goals and these plans, this wildly important goal, and you're revisiting these steps of reflecting, grounding, and examining every 90 days. And I promise you that the more you do it, the faster it gets. It does not take me 90 minutes anymore, because oftentimes as I'm doing my weekly check-in, towards the end of the 90 days, I already know this is going to be my priority for the next 90 days. I don't have to do a full process of examining and grounding and reflecting and all that, because I've kind of started to learn how to do that along the way. It doesn't have to be this big standing meeting that I have every quarter, but these goals and this WIG get updated every 90 days because you're accomplishing them. You're checking them off the list. You're celebrating them. You've seen that you've made progress on it, and now it's time to update it. And so I'm doing that quarterly review and updating of those wildly important goals and those goals to keep them fresh and to keep moving. And that's how you actually get to where you want to go at the end of the year, is by doing this work regularly and being disciplined in it, and not just being scattered or hasty or avoiding it. We're facing the reality of it and engaging with it week after week after week. And it doesn't become this big scary thing of like, oh my gosh, I've got to set goals and I don't know how. It's like, oh, I've got to set goals. I have a plan. I'm already following it. I'm already doing it, and I'm making progress on it. It actually becomes very fun and rewarding. And so, my question for you today is, what's going to be your next step? What's the one thing that you can take away from today to start in 2024? It's not going to be that you're going to all of a sudden do all of these things. If you haven't been a planner or someone who analyzes your work every week, you're not all of a sudden going to be able to do all of these things. And so, what's the one thing that you're going to do in 2024 to really, really help you with setting goals? And then after we share that a little bit, I do have an invitation for you coming up in January. So, what's one thing that's going to be your next step in the new year? Do I have worksheets? I will in my next invitation to you. I do have some examples for you for that. And what I usually encourage people with is to take mine and then make your own, because they work for me, but they might not work for you. So that's a great question, Brooke. Okay, so let's see. Brooke, you had a question before and I missed it about what is it called?
Oh, that book about adults with ADHD.
Oh, I'll have to go get it. I can drop it in the chat. I don't have it right here.
Oh, okay.
It's something about focus. I checked it out from my little local library. And he talks about ADHD, and then he gives you lots and lots of little tricks that you can use, skills that you can use to stay focused.
Mm,
I really, really liked how he explained that.
yeah, that sounds like
So I
a
can
good
get
book.
that to you. Yeah. Something else people are going to try in the new year.
I think for me, I'm just gonna try focusing on 90 days at a time
Mhm,
rather than the whole year
mhm,
and just complete that and then, okay, begin again. Complete
mhm.
that, okay, begin again. One thing
Yeah.
that I've done this year is I committed to making 524 pieces of art in a year, which
Wow.
is a really huge goal, and
Yeah.
I wanted to actually meet it and do that just for myself. And so one way that I do that is I have a little piece of paper that I have on my wall and I make like, what are they called? You know, those marks where you do like 4 and then
Oh,
you cross it out.
tally mark. Yeah.
Yeah, I just do tally marks every time I
Mhm,
complete one. And it's a really good way just to see my visual
mhm,
progress. So
mhm,
I think I might try something like that with my business goals and try to adapt
mhm,
that somehow
mhm.
just to
Yep.
see. Okay. Well, and also I have a calendar that says how many I need to have completed. Like, today is September 10th. I need to have
Mhm.
296 completed in
Yep.
order to stay on track. And so something like that I might try with
Yeah.
this as well, because that's been really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, breaking down, especially because you have such a hard number. I want to
Yeah.
create X number of pieces of art, or if it's like I need to make X number of connections or X number of sales,
Yeah.
breaking it down to 90 days makes it much more realistic than some huge number for the whole year. That again, then in October or November, you're going, crap, now I've got a ton of work to do. Instead, you can make it about
Hmm.
the 90 days. And then maybe you have that feeling in March, but it's not as big of a feeling as you would have had in November, you know? And then you might have
Yeah.
that crunch time feeling again in July. But again, there are these small crunch times instead of total crisis at the end of the year.
Yeah. Well, and instead of feeling scattered, I'm like, okay, I'm actually on track.
Mhm,
It's not as
mhm.
bad as it feels like, because I
Right.
think what happens in our head is different than the actual reality sometimes.
Mhm, mhm.
So something like that. I would love to see your worksheets and how you do that
Yeah.
for yourself
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, and that is another great point, is that we're actually terrible as human beings at remembering. We just are, and we're very
Mhm.
unrealistic about what we remember. Either we over remember that we did something more amazing than we actually did, or most of the time we under remember and it's like I didn't do anything. And it's like, well, actually the data shows something very different than that. We just don't have a good way of remembering. And
Mhm.
that's why I believe these types of skills, a weekly check-in, a quick schedule, all that kind of stuff helps us to be more accurate in our remembering and more realistic about our capacity. And so, real quickly, I will just invite you to, I am doing a workshop that walks you through your entire 2024 plan, 90 days at a time. We're going to take 2 hours in January to create that plan, to go over those rhythms in detail, to start to build excitement for your business. It will be a time to pray, because I think we want to do that for our business and for ourselves, but we just don't set aside time, or we don't know how to do that well. Because I believe if you really want to go somewhere new in 2024, then you have to do it differently. And so it's going to be on Tuesday, January 9th. So if this is overwhelming to you, like we talked about at the beginning of this, and you're like, I can't do this right now, Christmas is chaos, I've got family coming into town, or I'm traveling, then you can just know already you've got it on the calendar on Tuesday, January 9th. It'll be for 2 hours. I'll stay on the call as long as I need to answer questions, because this is a come and do workshop. I want you to leave with a completed plan and to have resources you can use all year long. I'll be answering those questions. I'll give you the full workshop. I'm also giving away my full SALTS finder, which is a personal inventory for yourself of what your skills and abilities are that you have, including the story that you've lived, your stage of life, and what you have to offer. I'll give you a replay of it so then you can watch it and reuse it. And I'm also doing something I've never done before and giving away one-to-one Voxer access for 4 days after the workshop. Because how many times have you attended a workshop and then like the next day you're like, shoot, now I have questions, I need help. So I'm going to do that for 4 days after. So this is on a Tuesday, so you'll have Voxer access through that Friday with me. And you can also upgrade, because I think a lot of us get started, we have a lot of this energy at the beginning of the year, and then by March we're like, oh, what was I doing? How do I do this again? How do I get motivated? I didn't meet my goals and now I don't want to do anything. And so you can upgrade to the all access pass, and I'll be doing this type of workshop 3 times throughout the year to hold you accountable, to help you and support you. So at the end of each quarter, we'll actually meet again for an hour and redo your plan for the next 90 days to really, really have accountability in your business, because just a one and done workshop isn't always the most successful for people. And so I'm actually also inviting you to invite a friend, to have them come, because it's always better with a friend. So then you can hold each other accountable and have the celebrations. And so for that right now, you can do this code 2024, and I'm giving 30% off, and you can sign up and come with a friend and join me for that day of planning. I'm not promising unicorns and rainbows. I don't promise that, but I am promising the opportunity for you to partner with God in your business, to have that plan to follow, and to just feel really clear and confident in 2024. And I love, love, love helping people be able to do that. And so I will drop the link for that if you want to sign up for it in the chat. I'd love to invite you to that. It's just an extra resource for you if doing this kind of work that we've started today is really, something that you want to invest in for the whole year in 2024. So let me drop that in here. So does anybody have any other questions that I can answer here? And I would love to be able to do that for you.
For your for the 2 hour, would it be wise, like if people signed up to do that, for them to prepare ahead of that workshop? Or are you doing it all like right there with them? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. I will probably start sending out some things at the beginning of January, but I don't want people to feel like they have to do a whole bunch of stuff ahead of time. I will probably encourage people, if they have data to gather some of that before they come, to print the workbook that I'll have, and to start reflecting and getting in that mode. But I really want people to be able to show up that morning and say, okay, I can do this work right now. Otherwise, that's when goals start to feel so complicated, right? It's like, well, then I got to do all this pre-work, and then I got to come here, and then I got to do all this work after. I want you to come and feel like I can actually do this, and I can replicate it for myself again, because I don't think that coming and learning something that, I can't use again on my own, that's not super helpful. So I want you to feel like you can do it, and also get the support that you need.
I think that's awesome, because I tell my clients a lot, like, if you're over prepared, then you're not letting in what needs to come into, you're not inviting that. So also to speak to that, like, I'm one of those people that want to be prepared and come to the table with what I have. I love that.
Right.
I have to always pull myself back and say, wait, you're not showing up open and ready to just put
Right.
like what can happen during that prayer time or just that time of fellowship with other women or whoever shows up, like what that looks like. Sorry, Joel, you're a guy,
Yeah.
so I
And
don't make-
men.
but- and
Yeah, that happens to me all the time. Nobody cares about us.
last time I did this, like a 90 day with Sarah, it was all women. So I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
didn't make-
Yeah. It's all good.
My office is all women. They said the same thing. We were at a Christmas party on Thursday, and they were like, "Oh, well, and all the girls get together." I'm like, "I'm right here."
And
You're- and you're on the board for the women's realtor.
Women's Council of Realtors.
Association.
Oh yeah, yeah,
so you kind of did it to yourself a little bit, just
Yeah.
a little.
yeah, yeah.
I think the other thing too is that when we try to pre-plan so much, we tell ourselves that it's all dependent on us and
Yeah.
that this dream and this plan that we have for our business is all about me. And it's really not. And I think Brooke said it well. You see, like, when I actually invite God into my business and then I forget that he's the one that's in charge, that's when it all gets messed up. And so I want people to be able to come to this day and say, I actually haven't planned anything. And what am I going to do? Oh, guess what? God's going to show up and he's going to show you because we're going to get quiet and we're going to sit and we're going to listen. And then we're going to trust what he says, because most often when we do that, he tells us something very different than what we would have planned for ourselves.
Yeah.
So
That's the truth. That is the
yeah.
truth. Hey, I've got a couple of questions.
Yeah.
If we want to upgrade, does that code work for the upgrade too?
Mhm.
Yeah. And when you say share a friend and come together, do they buy their own, or does that one price cover two people?
Yeah. They would need to pay for themselves, but you can share that code with them even if they didn't come today.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That sounds awesome. I just quick looked at your link and it looks great.
Okay, good. Oh, I'm glad the link worked. I've been having so much trouble with
Mhm.
my domain and all this stuff. It's like,
Oh no.
I'm like, I get why small business owners get taken out by technology because it's just so overwhelming sometimes when it doesn't work.
Well, if you ever need help with that, I have an extensive background in that stuff.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
please reach out. I'd be happy to
Thank
help.
you. I appreciate that. Thankfully, my
Um,
husband is very techie as well.
Oh, that's
But
right. Yeah.
sometimes he's like, I don't want to do this. So
Oh,
he's very helpful, but sometimes it's more me. I get tired of having to ask him all the stuff. I just want to know how to do it.
right. Yeah. Well, if you don't do it every day, and it changes so quick too.
Yeah.
But I really like this. I did
I have
some
to
planning
log
this
off. I
time
gotta.
last year for
Thanks, Joel.
this.
Thank you.
Oh, bye, Joel. But it was for the whole year and it was too much. And
Mhm.
then I think I got derailed because it was overwhelming. So I really like that you're gonna make it in more bite-sized chunks because I
Mhm.
think that works better for my ADD
Mhm.
brain.
Mhm.
Just focus on one thing at a time, complete it, and do it well.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that that's more people than not like I saw a reel the other day and it was like, my husband and I go away for the day and we plan the whole year. And I'm like, wow, good for you. That is not the way it works for me. I don't know if it's just like now that we have teenagers, I don't know what it is, but it's like, it's just not realistic. I don't know. And I don't really want to guess what next December is going to be like, because that doesn't
No,
leave room for
that
God to,
changes stuff.
yeah.
I know.
So,
Well, where I am, I would have never guessed a year ago God would do.
yeah.
To
So,
end the live stream real quick, you guys. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
No
gonna
worries.
say bye to everybody on the live stream.